Messi never looked like someone who needed to prove anything. He barely celebrated, rarely spoke, and never seemed desperate for attention. But behind that calmness was something much darker, because behind the greatest footballer of his generation was a boy who spent his entire life trying to answer one terrifying question: am I really good enough? Before the world knew Lionel Messi as a legend, he was just a kid from Rosario, Argentina, with an extraordinary talent and a body that wasn't developing like other children. Messi was diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency and needed treatment that his family struggled to afford. For a young boy, being physically different could have created doubt, but football became the place where none of that mattered. The moment the ball reached his feet, his size disappeared, his limitations disappeared, and suddenly, he was the one controlling everything. That may have been the beginning of something deeper than talent, the desire to prove that what his body couldn't give him, his ability could. At 13, Messi moved from Argentina to Barcelona, leaving behind his family and everything familiar to chase a future that wasn't guaranteed. Inside La Masia, he was surrounded by talented players who wanted exactly what he wanted: to become professionals. Being gifted was no longer enough. He had to become better, sharper, more consistent. And Messi developed a mentality that would define his career. He didn't seek attention. He didn't need to intimidate anyone. He became obsessed with mastery. The first touch, the movement, the pass, the acceleration, everything became part of a system designed to make mistakes disappear. While other players wanted to look like superstars, Messi seemed more interested in becoming impossible to stop. But the more Messi achieved, the more dangerous the expectations became. Goals weren't enough. Champions League trophies weren't enough. Individual awards weren't enough. Eventually, he wasn't being compared to other footballers. He was being compared to an impossible version of himself. And Argentina became the place where that pressure reached its peak. Messi could dominate club football, yet every disappointment with his national team became another reason for people to question him. He lost major finals, faced relentless criticism, and was constantly asked whether he could finally deliver for his country. For someone who had spent his entire life mastering football, failure became something he couldn't simply ignore. It became personal. Then something changed. After years of disappointment, Messi finally won the Copa America with Argentina in 2021. And in 2022, he lifted the World Cup. But the most interesting part wasn't the trophies. It was the change in his relationship with pressure. Messi didn't suddenly become louder or more aggressive. He simply seemed less interested in proving himself to everyone else. He had spent years carrying expectations that were almost impossible to satisfy, and eventually, he learned something that perfectionists often struggle to understand. You don't have to eliminate doubt to become great. You have to learn how to perform while doubt is still there. That's the darker side of Messi's story. His greatest strength may never have been confidence. It may have been the ability to turn insecurity into discipline, pressure into focus, and failure into obsession with improvement. He didn't need to tell the world that he was the greatest, because his performances slowly made the argument for him. The boy who once had to fight against physical limitations eventually became someone the entire world measured itself against. And maybe that's why Messi's silence became so powerful. He didn't defeat every doubt by answering it. He simply became so good that eventually he didn't need to answer anymore. And this is where Messi's story becomes bigger than football, because almost everyone understands what it feels like to be measured against an impossible standard. Messi's journey is powerful because he didn't escape that pressure by becoming perfect. He learned how to carry it. And maybe that's what makes his story so relatable. You don't have to be the most talented person in the room, the most confident, or the person everyone believes in. Sometimes the people who look the calmest are fighting the loudest battles internally. The difference is whether that pressure destroys you or becomes fuel. Messi turned it into discipline, and that is a lesson that reaches far beyond football. You don't always need to silence the voice that says you're not enough. Sometimes you just need to become stronger than it.